Okay, welcome to Concept to Cancellation. This is a canceled game segment, pack made by Blackstar258 and Alex Nations. Game development is a rough and non-linear process. Not all games make it to the finish line, with some not even being announced to the public. This pack takes a look at the games that were canceled but never became full-fledged games. Included are games we thought had interesting development stories, gameplay mechanics, or were fairly well known but we wanted to give more info. All of this will be on the final exam. No, we're not kidding. Oh. Okay. So anyway, yeah, canceled games. Let's, wow, there will be a quiz. That's weird. No problem. So the first game is Freak Boy. So it looks here, originally was called Stacker and developed by William Novak of Zono Incorporated along with Virgin Interactive in their in-house development studio, Burst for the N64. The story involved aliens called Zos invading Freak Boy's universe and stealing the sun. Freak Boy is the only one left, and he needs to step up to save everyone. So his unique ability is he can absorb things from the environment. I feel like... I don't know if I've ever played this. You have head, chest, and feet, and you can mix and match skills. So here's the mix and match. So there actually is like a ROM for this. I don't know if it was leaked or what, but it looks like, yeah, Freak Boy is playable. People were optimistic about Freak Boy, comparing the game to Super Mario 64. Yeah, okay. Here's an E3 trailer from E3 1996. Freak! Slated for release in the first quarter of 1997. I guess at this time, there really wasn't much else to compare it to other than Mario 64. It may seem rather simple now, chat, but truthfully, listen, I bought Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey for the Nintendo 64 because I was just starved for video games, and I wanted cool games on the N64. So honestly, if I saw this, I probably would have been like, hey, this is cool. Virgin wanted to scrap it and remade it from the ground up, citing poor reception at E3 and pushing its release to the first quarter of 1998. Virgin then asked for it to be scrapped again, pushing back the release date to 1998. Late 1998. By this point, the game had seen a revolving door of developers, and the game had been reworked so many times it was an unstable mess, and a game that couldn't actually be made. Freak Boy would later be put on indefinite hold due to what was previous developers and employees would cite as a huge financial losses and gross mismanagement within the company. When Virgin was bought by EA in 1998, Freak Boy was completely forgotten. In 2015, a prototype for the game was found by a user in the UK, uploading the videos to YouTube under the name Freak Boy 64, which is what you're looking at right now. And in 2020, a user by the name of Olivier Yu bought the prototype with the help of a community fundraiser and officially uploaded it online. I mean, I don't really feel like I need to play this to get an idea of Freak Boy. But here's a little something from GamePro in 1997. I would have looked at that graphics in 1996 or something, and I would have been like, whoa. Look at the bottom. Freak Boy could be a new revved up Mario with an attitude. That's crazy. But at the time, there was like, again, this appetite for N64 games, and 3D platformers were still so new. I think, you know, stuff like Chameleon Twist and Glover also got the Mario comparisons, and of course, it's a 3D platformer, you know, Mario 64 started the whole thing. Well, not really, Bubsy. Bubsy started the whole thing, but that's still very high praise. Show you a couple more images. We'll skip around. There's video of the prototype here. The innovative idea in Freak Boy is granting the lead character the ability to morph into weapons rather than simply carrying them. This 3D action game somehow manages to retain the trademark anti-aliased look of the N64 titles. Huh? I don't know why I'm adding the word "the" so many times. Here's a spawn room. And here's some extended gameplay. This looks like a perfectly fine rental. Like, again, I rented Chameleon Twist, like Bomberman 64, which I really like the multiplayer for Bomberman 64. I'll tell you what, though, Freak Boy definitely has attitude. But, yeah, it looks like there's a lot of slowdown. Once again, they probably just didn't have time to straighten everything out and just left it as is. Spee. It kind of looks cool. You know what? It reminds me of another N64 platformer, Tonic Trouble. Which was another dude who kind of looked like Rayman a little bit. Just kind of, again, like, you know, the rush to make a platformer. Suddenly we have consoles that can actually do 3D and not run like complete ass. Not complete ass, only a little ass. And Mario 64 was such a huge hit. It's like, I don't know, quick, do more mascot platformers. And some of the ones that I remember playing were very forgettable. But they were, I don't know, they were kind of cute. They were kind of cute in their own way. Like Gex. I liked it. It was a fun rental. Like I said, Chameleon Twist 1 and 2. But that seems like another one of those. I don't know if it would have been a huge hit. I think there's a chance, there's a window of opportunity for Freak Boy to have been something of a hit. Which is, if it came out in early 1997 to mid-1997. That's the only way. Because otherwise, I think N64 was still riding a little bit of hype at that point, but there were just no games. So if you have another platformer, and the word Mario is used in previews and reviews, I think that would have been enough to sell a couple 100,000 units. So next we have Conker's Other Bad Fur Day. This one kind of hurts in a little bit of a kind of a thing that I had when I was younger. I liked Conker a lot, and I was hoping that Rare would continue. Hang on, I'm just capturing this. I was hoping that Rare would continue making games for Nintendo because I didn't have an Xbox. And when Rare went over to Microsoft, it sucked because I didn't have an Xbox. Little did I know they would kind of just stop making games. But here it is. Developed as a sequel to Conker's Bad Fur Day after its release in 2001. Also, good timing on the music. Just totally random. Development continued after Rare was purchased by Microsoft in 2002, with it lasting to sometime around late 2004. It was decently far into development with the storyline finished, as well as some graphics and concepts worked on. Chris Seaver, creator of Conker, described the plot in an interview with Gamer Quebec as, well, as for what happened to Conker in OBD, Original Bad Day, I guess, or... Oh, yeah, that's fine. Well, he had become emperor of the known universe, got a new girlfriend, and lost an old one again. There's also this massive space poo, the Cthulhu poo, the main baddie. Oh my god, Cthulhu poo? Is very fecal. Any of the Conker stuff was very fecal. Lots of other stuff happened, with some new characters appeared and old favorites returned. We got to find out about Greg's, the Grim Reaper, childhood and why he hated cats. It's just really what I wanted to know my whole life. There were tons and tons of parodies of the more contemporary movies and an evil doppelganger version of Conker that you got to play for a while. And Birdie died. That kind of stuff. Chris also described some rather interesting cut content that was originally cut from the first game that would have been put into the sequel. There were a few levels that only existed on paper. For example, one where Conker had to inflate a giant fetish-themed female pig by sticking a bellows up her arse. She then became a floating dirigible, which you used to fly around the level dropping anvils on cows to make them shit in a trough, which then weighed down a lever and opened a door. That is actually fucking absolute shitima. At one point, Chris tweeted out images of the design documents for the game. He showed off pictures of a tower. So, yeah. That's a tower, all right. The dungeon intro for the game. Well, there's the tower up close. Here's the dungeon intro. Conker awakes badly beaten up with a ball and chain around his right ankle. He's sluggish and can't move very easily, restricted to the wooden floor area of the dungeon. As before, Conker can't actually die until he's escaped the training area, which is conveniently handled by him dropping through the chute, or being thrown through the door by the weasel guards. Interesting. Interesting to see how these things pan out. So here's a dungeon description. I'm not going to read all this, but I see there's a new character called Camembert, the French resistance cheese. Of course. In the final cell is the one who contains Hannibal the Manual. Oh, God. Here's Conker. Kind of goes into detail about him. He's got a slightly older voice, not pitched up this time. His whole attitude has changed. Wow. The later level will be a parody of the final Statue of Liberty sequence from X-Men. Conker's language has also matured, so he'll swear a bit more and is generally a lot more cynical about things and people. Oh boy. And then stuff about Barry. And the outro for the game. Once Conker has defeated Barry... Whoa, what? Some crazy shit going on here. Anyway, Chris states that Microsoft pushed for the game to be finished as the Xbox 360 was soon releasing, going as far as to asking Rare to move the development of the game over to the new console. Chris was against the idea as he didn't want to spend another 2 years working on a game he'd already spent nearly the past 2 years working on, something he regrets heavily. Oh man. 2 years it already had in it? Chris and his team had already been working on development of Conker Live and Reloaded, which was sprung on him and his team very shortly after the Microsoft purchase. After development was cancelled, Chris and his team worked on a multiplayer-only game called Gettin' Medieval, which featured Greg as the main protagonist instead of Conker. This would have reused a lot of Other Bad Day's art and concepts. Oh, that's OBD. That's Other Bad Day, right. However, was cancelled early on as Chris couldn't bring himself to start a long development process on yet another Conker game. As for Chris, he left Rare in 2011, and his contract was not renewed by Microsoft. I mean, I could, go on about how the Rare thing sucked, because Rare was at a time, growing up and playing Nintendo 64 games and PlayStation games, Rare was one of the best developers for me. Like, between PlayStation and Nintendo, I really feel like they were some of the best games at that time. Between GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, Diddy Kong Racing, it seemed like pretty much every genre they touched was good. Donkey Kong Country. And then Star Fox Adventures, I kind of went with it. I liked it a little bit. I didn't realize it was kind of embarrassing until later, but it was okay. It's not what I wanted, but when Rare was acquired by Microsoft, it just felt shitty. But they didn't really release very much, and then kind of Rare got delegated to just some sports titles, and, there was Viva Pinata, I guess, and Sea of Thieves, but now, I mean, with Microsoft's continued self-destruction and Rare getting further, casualties, I think some of the original team people that were left are now also gone. So it's just kind of... yeah, it's just kind of over. It's a shame. However, it's cool of Chris Seaver to have uploaded these design documents. I guess you can kind of read about it and find out what happened if you really want to. That's cool, I guess. Next is a game called Crash Landed. Oh, Everwild. That's another game. That could be on here. Everwild is another game from Rare. Man, that company just had really shit luck. Just really, really unfortunate. But there's also, there's other angles here too. One of the things I've read over the years was that the reason Nintendo had no problem letting go of Rare is there was a shift in the company in the late 90s, early 2000s, and by that time, maybe their creative juices weren't the same. So, you may recognize this guy. Crash Landed. Pleased with the release of Crash Mind Over Mutant, Activision gave Radical Entertainment the chance to develop a new mainline Crash Bandicoot game, which would serve as a reboot of the series. Development started around 2008 with the game to release on the PS3, Xbox 360, Nintendo Wii, and Nintendo DS. It had two names during development: I Am Crash Bandicoot and Crash Landed. Crash Landed seemed to be the decided name, with the former developers referring to the game as such. I like I Am Crash Bandicoot. That's... I am Crash. The plot was going to be a brand new origin story for Crash. After Dr. Cortex's experiments, Crash would then take off to rescue the non-mutated bandicoots, known internally as bandicoots. Dingodile was going to return, with him launching the bandicoots out of a cannon. New enemies were in the works, including a land shark and the queen of a large firefly hive. So that's this. Early concept art shows a different design for Crash, as well as a possible animal friend. Oh god. Oh god, that's Crash Bandicoot? What the fuck is this thing? He looks like a rat man. I'm confused because what I'm seeing here even looks a little different from here. He looks like he's got tood, and big pant, and is he wearing like flip-flops? Oh my god. Well, this is a manatee animal friend. Gameplay would be innovative for the series, as it would include a tool function which involved combining different items to create different ways to attack, as well as different movement options. Leaked design documents show that these tools were well thought out early on, with 11 of the tools having their own spec sheets. Included in the spec sheet was a boom bat, bottle rocket, fertilizer gun, flashbang, frogzooka, glider, jetpack, jet skis, light tool, pinata bomb, and the wig of insanity. Mr. Woods! So, I don't know where we are in this anymore. Oh, I went too far, sorry. That's the frogzooka. Yeah. Levels were going to have a more open world setting, much like Crash Twinsanity. Included is some of the levels, if you want to see what they look like. Alright. So this is general kind of level design stuff. Yeah, I mean, that looks a little more, just looks big. Island 2. Suggested tunnels. Game design documents are fascinating. That this eventually becomes game. Really interesting. The health bar from Mind Over Mutant would return, as well as a damage system similar to Ghosts and Goblins, in which Crash would lose his clothing from taking damage. Scheduled promotions were put in place by Activision, one of which includes a tie-in with McDonald's for a McWumpa burger. I think it's amazing that Crash would be nude and McDonald's would be like, we'll sponsor that. I get it now. I see McDonald's. I see what's going on. There it is. Try the new McWumpa burger. It's huge. This actually did get kind of far along. Development was shaky, according to former employee at Radical Entertainment. The lead designers of Crash Landed left after a year of development, and the rest of the team decided that they weren't a fan of that game direction anymore. So, it was decided to restart the game's direction. Problem is, the game went for quite a while without a lead designer, and by the time we had one, it was quite far along. We had barely a game to scrape together. That's what one of the people said. Former employee said that. Yes, sorry. The game was canceled after the pitch to Activision. Very dedicated Crash fans, however, have not let the dream of Crash Landed die, as some have started working on a fan game based around everything that was known about the game. Doesn't really surprise me to hear that, to be honest. Fans are dedicated. For me, Crash is not one of my platformer guys. Caddy would hate me if he heard me say that. Well, he wouldn't hate me, but I think it just never clicked for me. I played demos. I've played a couple things from Crash. I like Crash Team Racing quite a bit. I think that's my favorite. My favorite Crash Bandicoot game is Crash Team Racing. And I liked playing Crash Bandicoot on demo discs, but it's just, it's okay. I was really blown away by the graphics of Crash Bandicoot on the PlayStation, but a lot of deaths in that game really upset me. It just kind of sucked. But, I would have probably... there are design documents that are included about the tools and everything. I probably would have enjoyed something like this. It sounded kind of neat. But yeah, I was just garbage at Crash Bandicoot. And also, money was limited, so I would play the demo disc version of Crash, and I'd play like 2 levels, and I'd be like, okay, I'm good. I'm gonna buy Metal Gear Solid. Next, we have Super Mario Spikers. As many of you know, though, I did play the Spyro collection later on, and I enjoyed that a lot. But, I don't know, Crash could... Maybe there's some stuff in there that I would like if I gave it another chance. Super Mario Spikers for the Wii. Following the success of Super Mario Strikers Charged for the Wii, Next Level Games was given the chance to develop the next Mario sports game. Described by a former artist for NLG as a wrestling volleyball hybrid with a game show slant. Started production as just Mario Volleyball, as you can see by the logo. The wrestling mechanics were added later on in development after more employees from NLG started working on the project. With these new mechanics, the game's name was changed to Super Mario Spikers. That's the logo. Right there. NLG had been working on a game called WWE Titans Parts Unknown after a few years prior, which was also canceled, hence the interest in including wrestling to the game. Several designs for Mario were created. Wow. Oh my god, that's very tight. And an animation demo reel was discovered in 2014 by Unseen64 that showed off the wrestling mechanics, including Waluigi pile-driving Mario. Oh, I really want to see that. Here's another Mario design. That's the American cover version. I'm making that up, but at the same time, when I think of Angry Kirby, yeah. So, this is just 15 seconds of animations. That's awesome. That's awesome. Oh, man. I mean, I know we have Smash Brothers, but I kind of want to see, like, just more, like, fucked up wrestling moves, like backyard wrestling with Waluigi. Several level concepts were worked on as well, including a stadium, TV show sets. Ray Leno could do a show there. Wow. Like game shows. Set 2 includes a wheel that appears it could potentially alter the gameplay when spun. Some spooky levels. looks neat. And one that bears some resemblance to the map of DK Island from Donkey Kong Country. Oh yeah. Well, mainly, maybe more Donkey Kong 64. Some resemblance, sure, but it's also, it's kind of generically its own thing, too. The game was never greenlit by Nintendo due to what was deemed a violation of the code of honor of the company. That's crazy. The game was seen as too violent, the most likely cause being from Waluigi's extremely vicious and violent attack on Mario. Oh, that's great. Meanwhile, Smash Brothers, there's a commercial for Smash Brothers on the Nintendo 64 of the characters beating the shit out of each other. Sure, they're in costume. The phrasing of viciously beating the shit out of Mario, and violently attacking Mario is just fantastic. Is fantastic. Also, I just think it's strange that you have a whole series dedicated to the Nintendo characters beating each other up, and that's too much. I guess it's really animation dependent, I suppose. And LG did go on to finally develop a wrestling game with Punch-Out! And they also developed everyone's favorite Metroid game, Metroid Federation Force. Well, I think a Mario sports game with combat actually sounds kind of neat. Personally. I also think that Next Level Games is pretty good at what they do. And it probably would have been another fun game. So, remember, Nintendo was going to reject Smash. It just goes to show you that sometimes you just have to chill the fuck out. Just chill the fuck out. But yeah. That seemed alright. Next is Kid Kirby. Oh, this is an interesting one. I had never heard of this either. Alright, let's take a look. This is a very interesting image. So you'll just have to, 1 second. You'll just have to look at this for a little bit. Set to release as a platformer on the Super Nintendo, developed by DMA Design in 1994/1995. The storyline would have been told from the perspective of an older Kirby, telling his origin story from when he was a kid. The plot would have been similar to Kirby's Adventure. Kid Kirby has to find the missing star rod after it was taken from the Fountain of Dreams. A younger King DDD would have appeared, most likely named Prince DDD. The game was going to utilize the SNES mouse. Where instead of normal movement controls, you would have used the mouse to drag and throw Kirby into the air and launch him towards the goal, akin to Kirby's Dream Course. You know, that's actually interesting because, yes, Kirby's Dream Course, but I feel like a lot of Kirby games experimented with touch controls. Canvas Curse, Mass Attack. Kirby has had a lot of weird, touchscreen games. Sprite work was going, as well as level designs were worked on for the game. So let's take a look at some of that. Oh my god. So I don't know if they were gonna do a Donkey Kong Country thing. I really hate that, by the way. That's bad. It looks like fetal scoot DDD. I don't know what's going on with Kid Kirby's little hair. It's strange. Oh, okay, this is what it would look like. That's okay. More than I expected. So the 3D renders weren't really that. The goal per level, much like Kirby's Dream Course, was to collect stars and reach the hoop at the end of the level. The game featured 120 levels, with at least half of them being required. The other half was set to be bonus secret levels. Each level finished would count as 1% completed, so if you had finished all 120 levels, you'd finish the game with 120% completion. Does that bother anyone else? I know Donkey Kong Country did it, and, you know, it's cute to get like 102% or whatever, but it's just, I don't know. At that point, why even have percentages? No big deal. A playable demo existed at one point, however, former developer Mike Daly claims it was lost. My initial thought was Sonic the Hedgehog when I saw that. The game was cancelled after poor sales of the Super Nintendo mouse, and the game being tough to convert to being played on a normal controller. Mike Daly also claims that Nintendo got fed up with DMA Design's long development time. Oof. DMA Design later went on to create Grand Theft Auto, that is now known today as Rockstar North. It's true, chat. That is actually true. They did Body Harvest as well on the Nintendo 64. There's a lot more visuals here for this game than I expected. Like, looks like some of these levels are totally, like, complete. Included as well is the planned intro text, merchandise for the game, and a few pages from the instruction manual. I don't know, he looks kind of gormless to me. I'm just going to read that to myself. Yeah, he's Kirby, he's young and he's going on an adventure. Kind of cool though. It's like a little fake newspaper on the right there. He does look like Jigglypuff now that you mention it. Yeah, there's another, yeah, there's intro text here too, but you get the idea. That's Kid Kirby. When I was growing up, I only had Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. And I remember renting Kirby Superstar at least 3 or 4 times. I think it was like 4 times, probably. Because every time I rented it, I would just focus on a different game in the collection. And there were a lot of mini games there. I didn't realize how many games Kirby had for like a long time. I did rent Kirby on the NES, Kirby's Adventure. But when I found out later, like, that golf game, I had no idea that existed. And it ended up being a favorite of mine when I played it, because it's just really fun. It's just really good. But yeah, dude's had a ton of spin-offs. And I think fucking around with the Nintendo mouse early, it makes sense. It's kind of sad that it didn't happen, but I guess, poor DMA Designs. It's a shame that they kind of faded into obscurity. Next is Lightning Round. Alright. So... now this is going to be a number of things. You're going to love the name of this game, chat. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Guaranteed. Pussies Galore. Anyway, this features games we thought were interesting, but either decided not to fully feature or couldn't find enough information on. So, here's Pussies Galore. For the Amiga CD32, you play as an alley cat with a gun who would save kittens. Needs no further elaboration on why it was canceled. Yeah. And the schoolboys giggled and snickered. Cracking jokes worthy of, "Are you being served?" Huh? Oh god, that just brought me back 30 years. The cause of such jovial mirth is surely the rather risque title of Team 17's latest animal-related release. Team 17? Actually, what year is this even? Amiga? Yeah, I guess so. Probably around that time. Pussies, as it is affectionately known around some parts, is thankfully a game about cats. We can picture 50% of you getting really frustrated and turning to the page at this point, and you're probably in your early teens. Fortunately, Paul McNally is just about mature enough to bring you a filth-free preview of the latest feline-infested platformer. Just looks like, you know, a game where you go around and you shoot. Doesn't look like anything too different than things I've played a bunch. However, I noticed over here, Amber Developments, aka Smut Developments more like, man. Graphic artist Matt Bell and I met 1.5 years ago while working for a commercial games developer, decided our games were good enough to form our own development team. Pussies Galore will no doubt confirm this belief. Cancelled. Glover 2. Glover 2, sequel to everyone's favorite glove-based game. Glover 2 was about 80 to 85% finished, however was cancelled due to a rather interesting reason. I believe I've played this. I think this one was leaked. This quote from James Steele, former programmer for Interactive Studios. When ordering the carts for the first game, the standard production run was something like 150,000 units. And this is what the management at ISL had advised Hasbro to order, because the N64 wasn't really faring that well compared to the PS1 at the time, and the non-Nintendo titles tended to sell poorly. Nintendo had a special on N64 carts at the time, and the game was being scheduled for production. Some bright spark at Hasbro thought it would just be absolutely super to order double the normal amount, so they put in an order of 300,000 units at a slightly reduced cost. The problem was that none of the retailers wanted to take that stock off of Hasbro's hands, and thus Hasbro was left with 150,000 or so copies of Glover for the N64 that nobody wanted. That's something like $500,000 worth of stock that they can't shift. And with Hasbro Interactive not being in the best of financial shape, Glover became a dirty word around the company, as it soon became apparent over the course of Glover 2's development that they were stuck with all those carts. Of course, the blame was put on the game and the brand itself rather than the idiot who ordered the extra 150,000 carts from Nintendo. That is actually horrible. I'm not a Glover fan. I'm sorry to say this, but not for any, you know, I don't really have anything against the guy. I just didn't play Glover when I was growing up. When I finally did play Glover, it was fine. And to this day, I mean, I don't know. I played a little bit of Glover 2. I believe there's a leaked ROM for it. It's not amazing. However, that said, if anyone that worked on Glover is watching this, what happened to those 150,000 cartridges? I'm not going to get an answer in chat right now, but vinesauce.email is the page. There's a contact form. I'm kidding. No one that worked on Glover is still alive. No, if they are, I'm genuinely, joking aside, really curious what happened to these cartridges. Do any still exist? Can I have one? Does someone have like 10,000 in their basement? Did they repurpose them for other games? Landfill? This one's called Pest for the PlayStation. Tom and Jerry type action game with bright and fun visuals canceled because their company, Rocket Science Games, closed down. Oh, very simple, to the point. Zoinks! AKA Pandemonium. Oh, Zoiks. Z-O-I-K-S. I thought it was Zoinks. Huh. Point and click with Hanna-Barbera characters canceled due to the mishaps during development. So, Shaggy, the amusingly named character from the cartoon Scooby-Doo, is set to join the rest of the Hanna-Barbera characters for Zoiks, a cartoon RPG for PlayStation, late this year. Developed by Tribe, Zoiks features the likes of Fred Flintstone, Penelope Pitstop, Snagglepuss, and Huckleberry Hound, as well as Scooby-Doo, in a quest to recover all the sounds from their respective cartoons, which have been stolen by Dick Dastardly. Who else? The game will certainly appeal to younger players, but the zany nature of the characters should mean adults will get a kick out of it too. Released for Christmas, except it didn't. And Donkey Kong Racing. Spiritual successor to Diddy Kong Racing. After Microsoft bought Rare in 2002, the game was no longer of interest. Obviously. I covered this one a little bit. We watched some stuff, talked about it. You know, there was actually even... I think Rare made a Game Boy Advance Donkey Kong Racing that was then turned into something... I played a prototype, but not the GameCube one. Gormless. Yeah, Banjo Pilot. Right, okay. So, Donkey Kong Pilot turned into Banjo Pilot. So not the same thing, but, you know, it was something, Donkey Kong. And this one's interesting, especially considering the music that's playing. Metroid Prime 1.5. I'm surprised I've never heard of this. Maybe I have. Maybe it'll ring a bell. But we'll take a look with Metroid Prime 4 coming out. Let's see what we've got. Okay. Metroid Prime 1.5, internally pitched at Retro Studios as a multiplayer-centric follow-up to Metroid Prime in 2002 for the GameCube. Multiplayer, eh? Design document found by Mama Robotnik of the NeoGAF forums in 2011. Metroid Prime 1.5 would have taken place directly after Samus takes off from Talon 4, following her as she discovers a gigantic alien ship is brought into a parallel dimension. The ship is actually a war vessel on a collision course with a peaceful planet. Its goal to enslave the civilians and strip the planet of its resources. The alien inhabitants are suspended in time on the ship, while the robot and automated enemies are able to roam. The main antagonist was the ship's AI, which had begun to go mad, splitting into 4 different personalities: the child, the mother, the martyr, and the killer. So weird. Each personality had its own skills and behavior when interacting with Samus. So the killer evokes the feeling in the player that they're being stalked, with a focus on heavy combat. The child primarily does whatever it thinks is fun, giving Samus puzzles to solve and toying with her. The fuck? The mother, originally called the Fool, was the helpful personality, giving the player crucial plot information or hints. Kinda looks like a later Metroid Prime suit. The Martyr, influenced by Shodan from the System Shock series, is one of the... sorry, I think this isn't the mother, by the way. Is one of the boss battles in the game, and the head of all the AIs being tasked with the burden of carrying out the mission. Yeah, this is a long one. Hang on a minute. So, sorry, those weren't one-to-one. This was the child, obviously. I don't know what the fuck this is yet, but we'll find out. Originally, the game was meant to be a smaller project released immediately after Metroid Prime, while another team worked on the true sequel. Samus's abilities would have been limited depending on where she was located within the ship. Samus would also receive a new melee attack that would quickly knock out enemies or other players. A new power-up system was described as well, where Samus or other players could hack into it and learn new abilities. The twist being the ship's AI would download their genetic information, and the new abilities could also be learned by the other enemies. The idea for a boss being an evil Samus was teased using the system. It's not like we haven't seen several evil Sami by now. Several new enemy types were designed for the game as well. Humatroids, Thrash Hunters, and Shock Beasts. Humatroids, half Metroid, half human, stands 6 feet tall. Oh god, this is a Humatroid. Huh. Good at stealth, sabotage, scouting, and long-distance kills. Has a detachable Metroid in its chest that can be deployed to attack enemies and scout the area while the main body cloaks itself. Can temporarily gain an opponent's ability. Thrash Hunters. A mix of a space pirate and another unknown alien species. Stands 8.5 feet tall, uses claws as main weapon, can change its exoskeleton color to its environment like a chameleon, able to walk on walls and ceilings. When low on health, it can also self-destruct. Shock Beasts, another space pirate alien combination, stands about 10 feet tall, similar to a stormtrooper in personality, and carries around a pulse rifle and frag grenades. Can also self-destruct and has a vulnerability on its back where its heart and lungs are exposed. The game's main focus, however, was previously mentioned multiplayer-centric gameplay. Dubbed Mecha Samus in the original document, this would allow another player to join and play through the main story. Other ideas from multiplayer included different bounty hunters with different skills and abilities separate from Samus, which is interesting. This is Vinny now. It's interesting to note, considering Metroid Prime Hunters kind of did that same thing on the DS not long after this. There'd also be the AI would call in and have to decide for themselves if they wanted to work together or not. This version was called Trust or Deceit. Another idea was starting out the game with Samus and other bounty hunters already working together, being hired by the Federation. This version was called Semper Fi, Do or Die. Wait a minute, would there have been bounties for the bounty hunter Samus? No way. After the completion of the main game, players were then able to unlock different game modes. Capture the Metroid, which is capture the flag-like. Ancient Chozo Battle Robot, or Robot Battle. Arena Battle-styled mode. There it is, on screen right now. Base Destruction, which is like hot potato. 3-on-1. Oh, this one's asymmetrical. One player controls an Omega Pirate, others control bounty hunters. Morph Ball Bumper Car Super Battle Gaiden. Bumper cars. A single-player stealth mission in a nightclub. What the fuck? This can't be real. That's very, very strange. All of this is really weird. There's other game modes, multiplayer scenarios such as Riot Squad, win through most kills, control point, deathmatch with areas of control, protect the celebrity, escort mission, object race, race through the nightclub and acquire objects, and bottle blast, destroy as many bottles as possible. No concrete reasons could be found for the game not being finished and released. However, parts of 1.5 were taken, changed slightly, and reused in Metroid Prime 2. Included in the folder is the entire design document. Feel free to take a glance. Oh, I'm good. That is nuts. I'll take a quick look, but there's 20 pages of design doc. can show you this. Two levels of the nightclub. So this is pretty much what I think we could crank out in a year. A smaller adventure with expanded mechanics and a few new ones thrown in. The beauty of spaceship design is that a lot of the corridors and hub rooms can be reused over and over again with minor variation. It's fascinating. Well, I mean, Metroid Prime 2 had a kind of a multiplayer mode, and it's not terrible, but it's not amazing. I remember my friend got Halo 2, I think Halo 2 came out like the same day as Metroid Prime 2, and he was busy playing Halo 2, and me and another friend were playing Metroid Prime 2 multiplayer. And let me tell you, it was fun for about 2 hours. And that was good enough. Wasn't really that much. So, it was fine. Metroid Prime Hunters, however, is a lot better for multiplayer. Some of these game modes in Metroid Prime 1.5 sound interesting. The nightclub level is really wacky, and why is a nightclub in Metroid Prime? However, interesting, and I kind of now want to play this game. So, it's just kind of a fun what-if scenario. It reminds me a lot of Turok Rage Wars, actually, which took the Turok gameplay and just did, like, multiplayer missions and different game modes and different characters. Incidentally, a lot of people who worked on the Turok series would then go to Retro and work on the Metroid series. So, really makes you wonder. What about Federation Force? We don't have to think about that. Federation Force is a frustrating game because there were actually some cool things in it. And again, you know, we started the stream today talking about Metroid Prime 4. I guess we're ending the stream tonight talking about Metroid Prime 1.5. But Federation Force is not that bad of a game. It's just Babby's co-op game. It's completely forgettable, totally playable. I think I did like 9 missions, and I was like totally done. I was like, I got other shit to play. That would have been a really good mode to fuck around with on top of a killer Metroid game single player. Or as like a, you know, downloadable game. Anyway, there's an actual quiz. Thank you so much, Vinny, for taking a look at our segment. We hope you enjoyed this and were able to learn about a new game, or simply reminisce on games you already knew about. Well, there is a quiz here. So, what game was canceled because of the extreme violence? Chat, do you remember? I do. Super Mario Spikers. Which game had an AI with multiple personalities as the main antagonist? Pussies Galore, correct. Hey, don't. Listen. Pussies Galore sounds like a Sopranos James Bond villain. Metroid Prime 1.5. Which game included fetish content? Well, that's Conker's Other Bad Day. How many extra copies did Hasbro make of Glover 1? 3 billion, 2, 150,000. Freak Boy. Which peripheral was Kid Kirby going to utilize? Freak Boy. It's all Freak Boy. All of option 4 is Freak Boy. SNES mouse. What fast food restaurant was going to have a tie-in promotion with Crash Landed? That was McDanush. Definitely not Freak Boy. Although, I would like to try a Freak Burger with a McTwisty nipple. Animal style, please. And when was the final release date for Freak Boy? It was late 98. That was the attempted final release date, but it never made it there. So I believe I passed that. 94 points for that one. Well, thank you, Black Star and Alex Nations. That was cool. That worked out great. That was the perfect length of an educational segment. Great logo, good research. Interesting topic. I really enjoy that. Vinny, show the results. Oh, that was a 100. All of the answers were Freak Boy. Well, there you go, chat. This was fun. Sunday was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. The Genesis games weren't that fun, but whatever. Man, yeah, this was a great Sunday stream for me. I really had fun. Sometimes I stress a little bit because I want to do a good job. I want to put together a varied selection of games for 5 hours or so of entertainment. And, finding the right balance between games and, like, non-game stuff or me watching some crap. I think about it, and then some days I just don't have as much time to prep. Some days it's a little overwhelming. But I want to thank everybody that submits Sunday stream stuff and has done so for years. It keeps this tradition that we do alive. I'm just happy to do it. It's fun. It can be a job, but it's a fun job. I really like video games. I don't know if you know that. And I like freak content as well. So thank you for submitting any weird shit that you submit. I'm always open to Sunday stream ideas and suggestions. Some of them I can't get to. Maybe the segments aren't as tight, or I don't really know if they would go over well. And then sometimes, there's an expectation for Sunday stream, and I just don't know if a segment about weather is going to interest people. However, I did get a really cool weather segment, and I'm considering it. It might be cool. I think it might have frogs raining, which is neat. Weather is cool. All right. Weather segment will happen. I'll do the weather segment. I don't know when. That's the other thing, too, is I just don't know when. Like, the fucking Genesis games from today, chat, that was a pack submitted a year ago. So, I kind of do my best to get to the stuff I can whenever I can, and some of it falls between the cracks. If in the past couple years you've made a really good Sunday stream segment that you think the audience would love, you can email vinesauce.email and remind me. That's the contact form. Or you can use the submission form and you could submit it there. We have a whole new submission form. It's really good. What else? When are the Joker cars? Maybe sooner than you think. Also, I want to thank everybody that's been incredibly supportive. Thank you for the well wishes, for the streamer thing. It's like I said, very flattering. I will remember. I am not planning on winning that thing. I don't care. I'm not going to LA. But you know what? That was good enough for me. I felt like 1% better about myself as a streamer. And I think it's really neat to have people think that you do a good job. So I already am. That's good enough for me. So thanks, chat. If this is your doing. That's really cool. Are you paying for votes yet? I'll take a check if so. Gotta go. All right, no thanks. And also, chat, thank you for the subscriptions. I know I say this. Never required. It's very kind of you. I know money's tight. I know everything kind of is expensive and sucks. But I want you to know, I don't call the subs out. But I see you, and I appreciate it. And feel free to save your money if you need to, or save it for charity. That's okay, too. Now, I will go. This week, I'm just going to play a bunch of random fucking video games. I don't know what yet, but Maybe more Katamari. Definitely more Katamari. Maybe I'll finish Pac-Man. So, all right. Good night. Bye.